This is the USC Football Podcast. Here are your hosts, Tim Prangley of LAFB and Gabe Greenlee of the Trojan Blade.
You guys, you really need to be careful what you wish for because you actually might get it. You know, Gabe and I have been talking a lot last year and in the offseason just about how important and pivotal this season will be for Lincoln Riley, but also for the USC program itself. This is really kind of, second year in the Big Ten, and it's time to put up or shut up. And many of you guys have asked us to work together, and we thought we would turn some of these really marathon phone conversations that we've had over the years into an audio podcast.
Yeah, it's honestly crazy that it's taken us this long to get to this point. We started talking, I think it was the offseason between 2022 and 2023, right after that bowl game against Tulane. Let's not talk about that. But yeah, we're finally here doing this podcast in full, long-form content. People have been dying for it. And just some scheduling notes as we lead up to the season. You're going to get one episode per week. And then when that first game week against Missouri State finally comes around, you're going to get an episode on Wednesday. What that's going to be is it's going to be a game preview. We're also going to include all the news from during the week and some sound clips from practice from the press conferences. And then after that game happens, you're going to get an instant reaction. That's going to be up that night. We're going to record it immediately following the conclusion of the game. And then on Monday, that's going to be the game review episode. On Sunday, me and Tim are going to do our rewatch. We're going to notice all the little bits and pieces that you may have missed. We'll talk about standout players, how horrible the Big Ten officials are, all that sort of stuff. And that is going to be a repeat process during the season. So again, Wednesday, game preview, Saturday, game instant reaction, and then on Monday, a full game review. And yeah, that'll continue throughout the whole year. Now, in terms of where to find us, we are on all your favorite podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you find your podcast, we will be there. Now, we also have a YouTube channel. It's just called the USC Football Podcast. Just go on YouTube, type that in, it'll pop up. Now, every single week, the full audio is going to be on that channel, and we're going to edit out select clips and conversations that will be individual standalone videos. So make sure you go and subscribe there. The link is going to be in the show notes.
All right, so leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform of choice. This is going to let us know that you guys are enjoying the content. And added bonus is if you do leave us a 5-star review, you guarantee that we will read your comment or answer your question live on our next episode. All right, so let's get down to it. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off, talk about the bad news this week. And it's kind of crazy because USC football, if you've been following USC football, especially in recent years, whether it's the basketball team or it's the football team, there's always some major event that happens in the offseason that puts USC behind the 8 ball. This year's no difference. It just seems like the trenches seem to get dinged every single offseason, and this was no different. Obviously, we're talking about the news we received about DJ Wingfield and his eligibility here at USC.
Yeah, so the latest update is that DJ's case actually got transferred to a judge that's handling 2 other very similar cases. His hearing is going to be held on August 18th, so we're not going to know anything until then. He can't practice with the team. Not a great situation. The good news is that we do open with Missouri State. So if he does get cleared, he doesn't have to be at top fitness for that game. That can be a heavy rotation game. But yeah, we do have to wait until August 18th to know anything about where he stands with this team.
I mean, as of right now, he's not even on the official USC athletic page. He is at practice. He is in street clothes and just kind of, he's in limbo really. And you could see visibly during the interview with Lincoln Riley after practice, and you could hear it in his voice, just how frustrating it is for him, not just for the team, but also you could hear that you hear it in his voice, and not just for DJ, just how upset he is with the ridiculous rules. I mean, let's face it, if you're a USC football fan, if you're an NCAA football fan at all, for years we've learned about the NCAA. It's all about the student athlete. But for some reason, the person who always gets screwed in these things is the student athlete. And he was really clear to say, I don't know if there's sanctions involved in it. I know that, the SID was, Katie Ryan was kind of looking at him when he was answering the question, and he was kind of saying, hey, look, I'm not supposed to talk about this thing. But I think he felt it was time to speak up about it. And he just said, hey, look, he kept saying, hey, look, what you got to do, just do the right thing. He wants people to do the right thing, whether it be in the courts or the NCAA.
And to Lincoln's point, this literally doesn't make any sense to me personally. He has 2 years out of JUCO. He has multiple injury red shirts. Why in the world is he not being granted his eligibility? You look at a guy like Diego Pavia that's been in college for a very long time, played in junior college, just like DJ did, but for some reason, he's not being granted eligibility. A big part of why Lincoln got so frustrated is because of the inconsistency with all these cases, and I don't blame him at all. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the rule really helped out DeCarlos Nicholson. I mean, I remember when the news came down, we're like, what, really? And he has more eligibility. So, I mean, it is the capricious nature of how these things are doled out, how some people get the extra year, other people do not. I'm hoping that courts prevail. So before the House settlement, it just seemed like everything was going towards the players. But after the House settlement, I don't know if there's verbiage in there that kind of strengthens their case, but just seems like the NCAA is flexing, kind of trying to draw a line in the sand. And all it really is hurting is, again, the student athlete.
All right, but for the sake of conversation, obviously we hope that DJ Wingfield gets cleared and is a part of this team. But assuming he's not, let's just take a look at the offensive line at large.
And USC, I mean, the good news is USC has done a great job over the past couple of years, getting some very large and talented, and let's face it, some nasty maulers on the offensive line. Sorry. And we could assume that Elijah Page and Jean-Marie Reed have nailed down their positions. We'll get there. And we'll throw Alani Noah in there as well at right guard. I think those are pretty secure situations on the offensive line. So that leaves us with right tackle and left guard. And the good news is a lot of these offensive linemen, not only are they very large individuals, but they are also very versatile, and they're able to play multiple positions. And just like we talked about earlier today, Tobias Raymond actually played some guard last year. And so you're looking at standouts. One of the big standouts recently in fall camp has been Micah Banuelos. So let's throw Micah Banuelos in there. You have Tobias Raymond, Justin Tuanu also could be added there. And a person that really has not been talked about a lot because of injury, just like Micah Banuelos, is Hayden Treater. So let's figure it out. Let's knock down that left guard position, and that'll leave us probably with two guys who's going to be our right tackle.
All right, so for me at left guard, I'm actually going to go with Tobias Raymond. Now, I know he played right tackle in the bowl game. I know a lot of people see him as a right tackle just because of his height, because that's what he came in as. But if you really take a look at Tobias Raymond, the player, this is a guard in a tackle's body. He is very good in a phone booth. He loves to mix it up. Very violent guy, loves to pancake people. He's very fun to watch when he's pulling. I think he's a much better fit at that guard spot, actually. But as much as I do want to see Tobias at guard, it's a lot more about who I want to see at right tackle, and that's Justin Tuanu.
Well, I think whatever the situation left guard is going to be, I feel a lot more comfortable than we have in previous years. I think the fact that we have a center who is a proven center, is not moving over. It just seems like we've had new centers rolling in. So having a new center is not going to be a major issue for us. Mm-hmm. But I'm kind of excited about having that size there. Now, Killian O'Connor, he came in. And, for a guy who's a bit undersized, he really knows the system, plays well. But if Jean-Marie Reed's able to take the role that I think he's going to, having that size, Alani Noah, and then you're talking about you sliding over a Tobias Raymond, having that size in the interior, when we need those tough yards. An issue with USC is they ran the ball very well. I mean, they were close to 5 yards a carry, if I'm not mistaken. And having that ability to run the ball is great, but sometimes when we needed to run the clock out, we need to get off the field. They weren't able to do it when the other team knew we had to run. Having all that size in the inside, I think, is going to increase the odds of us being able to get those tough yards when the defense knows that USC runs the ball. That's number one. But the second part is these guys are also versatile. I mean, you're talking about three guys in Micah Banuelos, Tobias Raymond, and Justin Tuanu that can be versatile, can play in multiple positions along the offensive line. And then throw in Hayden Treater again, who was a guard, but he has almost a tackle body. Having all these guys, I know we've kind of talked about it. It may not be the national championship offensive line that Lincoln Riley is trying to tell us, but it is an unproven, but yet very talented a group of guys. And we know that, it's not just about, I think it was Josh Hansen talked about the fact it's not always just getting the best five guys. Of course you do want to have your best guys, and you hear a lot of times, hey, get your best five guys out there, but it's also how these guys play together. And I think that part of it, working as a unit, getting those mental reps, getting those reps in together with a guy next to you, I think is going to be very, very important. And so, you don't lose much there with DJ Wingfield in the fact that he was not going to come in with a lot of reps on this line. So whoever was going to be at that left guard position was going to be new to Elijah Page. They were going to have to break it in. And obviously, John Ray Reed's coming in. He's been here since spring, and he's getting his reps with the team now. But really, it's a whole different game once those bullets start flying in a game situation. It's not going to be like practice. Now, the good news is there are a couple of ramp up games before we get into the Big Ten schedule, but it's going to be not a lot of time for these guys to gel together. So I do feel positive, whether it's Micah Banuelos, whether it's Tobias Raymond, or a Hayden Treater or a Justin Tuanu. I think that it's going to be filled. And we also know if it's so difficult for us to figure it out, we also know that if they do need to go deeper into the depth chart, we know hopefully won't have much of a drop off.
You're a big Micah Banuelos guy, aren't you?
I am a huge Micah, because if you remember going way back, I just loved his high school tape. I absolutely raved about just the way he finishes. When you have guys that finish like that, it's they talk about having a motor all the time, and technique's important too. But sometimes there's these guys, you see them and they just have something in them that's different, that you really can't teach. They either have that dog in them or they don't. And it's up for debate because we really haven't seen a lot of these guys. So we're going to find out pretty quick. Whoever that left guard is going to be, they are going to need to be ready, because as much as we do want to say it's a ramp up, the offensive line has shown that when they don't protect our quarterback last year, we had a lot of trouble. And it's no mystery that this team's go as far as the offense goes about as far as the quarterback's going to take them. And a big part of how far the quarterback will be able to take them. I've talked about Jada Mayava, the big thing missing last year, besides maybe an understanding of the offense and besides being on the same page and having those reps with the receivers, is he lacked that poise. And nothing will rattle the cage of a quarterback if he's getting hammered every 2 seconds.
Going back to what you said about Micah and having that dog in him, though, I mean, it's a much different thing if you're talking about a guy like Hayden Treater that's 6'6", or a guy like Tobias Raymond that's 6'7". I mean, you're actually at practice. How does Micah look compared to these other guys size-wise?
I'm not okay. So size-wise, you're right. It's two different ball games. I believe Micah's 6'2", but he's got really long arms. And he's technically he looks solid. He's got good punch. I like his bend. Obviously, when you're a little bit shorter, sometimes being 6'7", 6'5" can be a curse, especially on the inside. If you can't, low man wins, and so sometimes it can, with leverage, it can be helpful. I've spoken to somebody very close to the situation. Hint. That Micah is working on, he's coming off that injury, so he's working on getting that strength back. But I think he's a strong kid, and I think that he has something there that the coaches definitely see. Whether he can get that strength up and ready to go for this season is another story. But the good news about Micah also is he had his redshirt year, and then he took a medical last year, so he has 4 years to play. So I'm really excited about that aspect of it too. I know he's all SC. I know he's a great kid, and I know he's going to put the time in to be that guy I think he could become.
And the thing about Micah that I think a lot of people forget is that he was the backup left tackle for a big chunk of last season prior to him getting hurt. That's not a role you get thrust into if you're 6'2", if the coaches don't love and trust you. So that really says a lot to me. I know we have a different offensive line coach now, but the fact that he's in there again running with the ones, I don't know, that really says a lot to me about what the coaching staff thinks of him.
And those long arms, Gabe. So, I mean, yeah, he's 6'2", but you look at his wingspan. He does not have the wingspan of a guy who's 6'2". I think he has,
which isn't the biggest deal for a guard, to be fair, but it still does help. You're right.
Well, anytime you can keep those defensive linemen off of you and keep them at distance, so they can't, it's a bonus. So I agree. You're kind of playing in a phone booth. But having longer arms and being, again, if you can keep that defender and hold them off, it will be a bonus. So yeah, I mean, that's why you're saying he was able to bump outside and play, or he was the backup tackle, is because he does have that reach, which is definitely beneficial on the outside pass rush. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited. Look, whatever the story is going to be, whoever's going to end up at left guard, it's going to be somebody who's going to be pushed by other people. Competition. Go back to Pete Carroll is the big thing. There's a couple positions this year we can go back and forth on. Maybe we'll go into a little bit later. There is going to be a lot of competition between very talented, but albeit untested and guys that don't have a lot of experience. But there's no doubt that there's talent out there. Can somebody come to the top, and will they be able to do it by the 4th, 5th, 6th game of the season?
Well, that's the thing that I really hope we see. I forget, was it 2023 where we had all that crazy offensive line rotation in the first few games?
Yeah, and I was making excuses. I was doing the mental gymnastics saying, oh, no, we're just trying different combinations. We were trying to get some guys breaking them in so that we're going to ramp up to the season. But, oh, boy, no, they were just trying to figure out they could cobble together a line that's actually going to protect Caleb. And we sadly, as the competition on the defensive side and the pass rush got a little more stout, we found out that they did not find out that combination.
No, they did not. And I remember being extremely against the insane amount of rotation. So one thing I really want to see is I want to see the starting unit be hammered out by that first game. Maybe you make 1 or 2 changes, but not a bunch of rotation during the game. I'm not a fan of that at all. But one thing that I do want to touch on a little bit is the fact that in your mind, Tim, would you say that Tobias Raymond's going to be on the field in one of those starting spots?
I know that coaches have been talking highly of him. Technically, he does everything. He does everything right. Does everything to standard. He's leading the way. At that note, Hanson's glowing about the way he's playing. There's no denying his size. I think that Tobias needs. I think he does need to find his way somewhere onto the field. So I think again, I'm kind of with you. I mean, I'm pulling for Micah as well, and again, Hayden Treater, both guys coming off of injury. It's hard not to pull for those guys, but I do think just the experience, the fact that he's a technician, you have your position coach talking about you, and there's just no undeniable. One thing to be at practice is for the last couple of years, when you look at our team in general, not just offensive line, I mean, all the way down to our secondary, they look different. And I know everyone talked about how much bigger USC was last year. It's not just a bigger, it's the size, but it's the way they carry their weight. And a guy like Tobias Raymond reminds me of those big tackles that USC was known for. And so if you mix in some athleticism, you mix in the fact that he's a technician, you're bumping him inside to play with in between, Jean-Marie Reed and Elijah Page. That's a lot of beef on the left side. And again, going back to what I said, maybe we beat Michigan if we can run the damn clock out. I was talking to John Jackson last weekend, and he was saying the 4-minute drill. We had the 4-minute drill where you run the clock out. You don't give the offense the opportunity, the opposing offense, the opportunity to get on the field to break a big long run and change the game, because Michigan wasn't doing anything in that game. The defense had bottled them up, but the defensive interior was just gassed. And I don't want to go into too much, but if the offense had just run the clock out and been able to stay on the field, game over.
But talking about Micah Banuelos and Tobias Raymond, for me, it's honestly more about just getting Justin Tuanu on the field. I think he has to be in that right tackle spot, or just find somewhere on the line to put him in. I was blown away by what that kid did in the bowl game. And again, I know it's not the number 1 Texas A&M defensive line. I get that. There's still some studs that were out there. To come in off the bench at left tackle against Texas A&M and play the way Justin did, that was his first game action of the entire year, unless I'm mistaken. I mean, that kid's just got magic feet. I always call him a dancer because that's what he looks like to me out there. Yeah, I think Justin just has to be on the field.
Yeah, and again, I keep thinking in my head, the reason why Tobias needs to be on the field, we talk about, you hear the coaches talk about, and it's football, right? It's coach talk, but consistency is something that you need. I remember going back to even Lincoln Riley talking about, sometimes it's not, but we need to find what a great player is. Is a lot of people get wrapped up in a great player making these great plays, speaking like on defense, let's say your defensive end, getting to the quarterback, causing a strip sack or rushing the pass, rushing the throw. But the big thing he said is that's part of it. He said, but what a great player is your bad plays, not your good plays. Your bad plays don't hurt you. You set that edge and the guy doesn't take the ball 40 yards down the field. you make that tackle or you hit that hole, right? You're sound gap integrity. You don't go on a holiday and try to make a big play. Your bad plays aren't so bad. You live to fight another day. Think about the Washington game. Think about that Michigan game. There were a lot of missed assignments that really hurt USC last year. And if they can clean up some of those, I mean, they're drive killers. Or if it's fourth down and you for some unknown reason, double team somebody and you leave the linebacker right up the middle to hammer your running back, those are game killers. And these guys need to clean those up. Hanson's coming in, the coaching staff. Another word you're saying is, attention to detail is starting, even in the off season with Coach True and the strength program, doing it the right way and attention to detail. I'm really, this season, everyone's pointing at the quarterbacks. We all know, why Caleb brought his offensive line with him for that Heisman Trophy. We know what an offense looks like. Think of those late Hackett years. There were plenty of skill guys on those late Hackett teams, but it just was inconsistent on the offensive line, and the offense looked like crap. So clean those things up, figure out that left guard. I think the right tackle, I'm happy with either Tobias Raymond or Justin Tuanu at right tackle. Sorry, wait, and I can't end this segment without talking about, holy crap, is Vicona a very big human being?
Yeah, everybody's been talking about him.
I'm sitting there at practice and I just can't. Earlier I was going on about, we're starting to look like the USC offensive line of old. When you stand next to, we're talking about how big Tobias Raymond is and Hayden Treater, is, and you stand next to those guys and you make them look not small, but not as large as they are. This guy I really do hope that he can lean down a little bit and bring something to that tackle position, because guys, keep an eye on him, because he definitely looks the part. Let's just put it that way. He looks like he's going to kill somebody.
What's his listed height and weight? Do you know?
No, I do not know. But I think he's 6'7", if I'm right. That's a guess. Let me take a look.
6'8", 385 pound true freshman.
Right. So, I mean, we know it's a 385 needs, and if you see him, he needs to lean that down. But I mean, 6'8", get him down to maybe 350, 355. I think that he's going to be something to watch.
Yeah, he's going to be a dude for sure.
So, I mean, that's just one position that is just going to be fun to watch over the fall and really throughout the season, seeing who can come up and take over that position, because having a room like that with a lot of guys that can move along the line, that are very versatile and very hungry, that's going to be a position to watch. Again, not just through the fall camp, but into the season, see who can get there. So where do we go next? I mean, because really, as far as the other positions, I mean, receiver, is who's going to emerge as that third receiver. We can go into that a little bit later, but honestly, I don't really want to go into that today. Let's flip over to the defense side of the ball. We know the defensive line situation as well. I mean, that's pretty hammered out.
They're all going to rotate. It's
going to be so much rotation, and so the cream's going to rise to the top. But the rotation is going to be great. Late in games, we're not going to be fading those fourth quarters. Why? Because we're going to be deep, both on the interior and on the outside of this defensive line, right? So are we good? We know they're going to rotate. Really not much conversation there, correct?
100%.
Just keep an eye out. Again, there's some young guys that names you might not know. Floyd Boucard and Jakeem Stewart. More people know Jakeem Stewart than Floyd Boucard, but I really think you guys need to keep an eye on Boucard and Abasiri, because I think both those guys are going to flash and are going to get on sooner than later.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I'm also a massive fan of Gus Cordova.
Yeah.
I do think he's only going to be a third down pass rush specialist in rotation this year. Don't really think he's going to be like a 3-down player at all or anything like that. But yeah, massive fan of his going forward. Love his motor. Linebacker, sort of a similar spot, because we know who the two starters are going to be with Gentry and Desmond. The only real question is who's going to be the third backer off the bench on rundowns.
That's well. So take a shot at that one real quick. I mean, there's a lot of chatter.
Yeah.
What's that?
Jaden Walker for sure.
Jaden Walker for sure. Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe bet. Last year the position was filled by Anthony Beavers. Elijah Newby has come back over again from the defensive line, a head scratcher to begin with. They bumped him back. Look for him there. Maybe spelling. That maybe is that fourth guy, right? Maybe at the will, rangy guy, and then let's get out. Let's get out of the linebacker room and let's go to where the real heat's going to be. It's going to be amazing to see who comes to the top in a very highly contested cornerback room, and we might as well throw the nickel in with them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to pretend like I haven't been watching practice because I'll tell you what I've seen at practice. We're not allowed to report on. But I will tell you, it's not what I thought. So I'm going to stick with my original thoughts, and then we'll let the season play out. But I'm just curious for you, Gabe, how do you see the two corner positions first off?
Well, as anyone that follows me on the Trojan Blade YouTube channel or my Twitter knows, I have Chasen Johnson in one of those spots. I'm extremely high on that kid. He actually got shouted out by Lincoln Riley on the first day of practice as a camp standout. Definitely think he has one of those spots locked up. Very rangy cover corner, can come up and play press man. Also very good in zone. Very smart, good tackler. Yeah. He can really do it all.
Yeah.
Now, the other question is who's the other corner going to be? Now, it's between DJ Harvey, DeCarlos Nicholson, Marcellus Williams. Is a guy like Isaiah Rubin or Braylon Conley going to break through? For me, I do have Harvey there right now. Obviously, making the jump from the Mountain West to the Big Ten is really, really hard. So we'll see how he does with that. We'll see if he's even the opening day starter. But yeah, for me, I have Chasen and Harvey right now.
Yeah, with that nickel position, they are going again. There's that versatility they always talk about and interchangeable parts. You have a lot of guys that can bounce between that corner position and your nickel backer position. I think that wherever it is, I know that Marcellus Williams is going to get in there somewhere. I just have to believe that he is going to be a player. If you listen, you listen to your cornerback coach, who's Trevon Reed, talk. I sat down with him when they had the USC media day, and he was just talking about how DeCarlos Nicholson is a guy that really is putting in the work. He sat down with Keely with the USC athletic department, went into detail about the fact that he just sees him working hard, and I think he's going to have a role as a veteran on that team, just doing everything right. So it's really come down to the DJ Harvey. Is he going to step up? Is he going to come over and get in stride, be that guy in the Big Ten that can step up in the competition, because it's going to be a step up from, is it San Jose State? Is that where he's coming from?
Yeah. So
that might be a jump for him, but that other position is going to be it's going to be the wild card. That's going to be that, along with left guard. I tell you, is going to be the question mark, not only in the fall but going into the season. And I just think that you're going to have your three best guys. It's really going to come down to that. Your three best guys filling in those positions. Obviously, there are going to be personnel situations where they're going to change that nickel depending on the situation and personnel. But in general, I think you're going to see a combination, most likely of at this point, DeCarlos Nicholson, Marcellus Williams, and then you like, I'm not going to steal yours, then Prophet Brown. But you were talking a lot. You have been talking a lot in the offseason about Alex Graham, true freshman.
Yeah, Alex Graham is easily my favorite player in the entire 2025 signing class. That's including Jakeem Stewart. That's including everybody. I think he's going to be a superstar. He's one of those Swiss Army knife types that play in the secondary. He can play safety, corner, nickel. He could play wherever you want him to. I think he's just a perfect fit for nickel. Physically, this kid's just ready to play right now. He's not a guy that had to rely on just his speed or athleticism in high school. He's a very physical tackler, very smart football player, diagnosed plays even before the offense knew what they were doing. Yeah, I really think he has a shot to play as a true freshman. Now, is it going to be week 1, 2, 3? Not sure about that. But at some point during the course of this season, he's going to be on the field for this defense. I'm extremely confident about that.
Yeah, 6'1", 186. And it looks like he plays and is bigger than that. We'll see.
Agreed.
But again, the same kind of mold as a Marcellus Williams. He plays bigger than he is. And of course, DeCarlos Nicholson's just big. So size, lanky, long. So there's going to be that to it.
I'm looking forward to it. Marcellus could play nickel? You watched him a lot at Bosco.
That's the thing about him. He can come up at Bosco and at SC. He's a smaller guy, but he's got that, again, like Javon Reed said, he's got that dog in him. And he can come up to the line and he can smack you in the mouth. I saw him do it at Bosco. I've seen him do it in the spring game. And I may or may not have seen it, hypothetically, possibly, at practice.
Hypothetically.
But I would say to you that he is the kind of guy that's not afraid to stick his helmet in there and come up. And Javon Reed made that clear also when I talked to him on USC Media Day. Like, they're going to hit and they're going to tackle. That's the standard. That's the expectation. And if you're not up there and you're not, hitting dudes, because it's a run heavy league. And if a guy's coming outside, you got to meet force with force. And you're probably going to be undersized weight wise a lot of times. But what's mass is force is mass times acceleration. You get up there and you pop someone. You've seen guys that, again, I've seen it time and time again in high school with Marcellus, and I saw it at USC last year. He can hit, and I have the same feeling that if you're not, you're gonna find the pine, because they're gonna expect you to make that tackle on the outside. And it's not just, it's not just technically being in the right spot and setting it, but it's also having that dog in you and be willing to put that hit on, not one of those Deion Sanders go for the ankles,
No.
Right. You need to get your helmet in there. You get your shoulder pad out there, legal hit, and put that running back down.
Well, and it's not even that he didn't have that dog in him. So that's not what I'm trying to say. But I feel like we did kind of learn this lesson last year with Akili Arnold. Now, Akili had a lot of strengths, but tackling in open space was not one of them. So looking at the guys that we're talking about, a guy like Marcellus, a guy like Jason Johnson, that's what they really excel in. And another name that I feel like we haven't talked about enough is Christian Pierce. Do you think he's just a safety, or do you think he can play nickel as well?
Well, talk about a hitter. I mean, when he burst on the scene with that big hit in the hole he had, I can't remember. Was it Brian Jackson? I can't remember who
Darwin
it was.
Barlow.
Darwin Barlow. I knew it was a big back. He burst on the scene and everyone was like, whoa, because especially for a spring hit, it was like everyone just stopped and everyone talked to the buzz about that. I could absolutely see him and his physicality be up there, and the versatile guy that he is. He definitely could play that nickel spot.
Yeah, but I don't really think there's too much to talk about with the safeties. I mean, it's going to be Kamari and Bishop. I like that pairing a lot more than Kamari and Akili, because Akili was kind of good at everything, but he wasn't really a master of anything. And Coach Lynn ended up putting Kamari back in cover one a bunch, which Kamari can do that. He can be the center fielder, but he's at his best when he's down near the line of scrimmage. What I love about having Bishop is that really takes that load off of Kamari's plate. Like, Bishop's going to be back there in cover one playing single high just by himself, and he's going to excel at it. And I think we're going to see Kamari be a much bigger playmaker than he already was last year.
And I'm going to give the guys last year in the 24 squad a little bit of break, because it appeared to me that the pass rush took the year off. And so as soon as you lost Eric Gentry, it just seemed like, if you give a quarterback that much time to throw, you're really just hanging your safeties out, corners, especially your corners, they're out on the island to dry. We saw in that Penn State game, almost getting there just doesn't count, does it? Fourth down, big fourth down plays that were given up wide because the guy just wasn't one step quicker to get to the quarterback. So again, we're hedging on this defensive line. I know Cam Fountain's going to come on strong. I believe that Gus Cordova is going to be a pass rush specialist, like you said. Anthony Lucas was that guy that was just so close last year. He can just step that up, and then Braylon. I'm waiting for Braylon Shelby, man. It's time to get this thing going for him. So
it is time. Yeah,
I do believe this pass rush is going to be, and a big part of it is, like we always talk about, that interior pass rush. You collapse that pocket, you cause that chaos inside. That's going to open up everything for the outside for your linebackers, but also it's going to open, that quarterback will be comfortable in sitting in that pocket. He's got to roll out right into the face of a waiting Cam Fountain or Anthony Lucas. So that's going to help the guys in the secondary. And I agree with you. I can't wait to see Bishop Fitzgerald back there and Kamari. Here's a stat that really freaked me out. And correct me if I'm wrong, you guys in the comments. I'm sure you will. But I think Kamari Ramsey only has 1 or 2 interceptions in his career. Am I wrong about that?
Is that true?
I'm gonna look it up. So yeah, here according to the trusty internet, he does. He only has 2 interceptions in his career. I see that number coming up. Even though I do think you could have him as a box, he'd be creeping up in the box. I just have a feeling that he has that nose for the ball this year. And I think last year, again, there wasn't a lot of opportunities. And when he did have that A&M interception, he showed his range. He showed his ability, his athleticism. I do think that this year there's going to be a lot more tip passes. And if he's up in that box, he might get some freebies.
Totally agree with that. And talking about tip passes, something that Dan Lynn loves to do is he puts in a NASCAR package on 3rd down, which is purely a pass rushing package. So any run defenders you have are going to come off the field. You're going to have 4 pass rushers on the defensive line. So the question is, who are those 4 guys going to be on 3rd down? Because last year he would kick Anthony Lucas inside to play alongside Devin Tompkins. I think that's going to happen again. And then having a guy like Braylon Shelby and Cam Fountain on the edge, having those 4 guys out there at the same time, maybe throwing a guy like Jakeem Stewart. I don't know. The pass rush upside this year is just so much higher than it was last year. Really think those sack numbers are going to explode.
Yeah, and so there's probably a couple of the younger guys as well that, Jakeem Stewart's going to be, and Floyd Boucard, as I talked to you before, is flashing, just blowing past guys, and then Gus Cordova. We've seen his tape. The guy's nasty. He's quick. He's going to get to the quarterback. So this group is going to be fresh. There's going to be a lot of depth on the outside. They do have that ramp up that we've talked about. This isn't an offensive line where you need to have the cohesion. You're going to see these guys get in, rotate a lot, I think, early on, and get to the quarterback. I think that what we saw last year was an anomaly. And I think this year, again, for all the reasons we named before, that collapsing the pocket, causing havoc in the middle. When you got a Keyshawn Silver, Kobe Pepe, Jod Jarrett, Carlin Jones, Devin Tompkins, Jide Abasiri, just getting up the middle there. It's going to let those guys on the outside feast. And so,
look at the amount of names you're saying, though. Compare that to last year. Look at absolutely nothing against these guys. They were great Trojans. But when Dan Lynn's asking Nate Clifton and Gavin Meyer to go out there and play in the Big Ten, that's a tough ask at their size. Just compare to what we have this year. Look at guys like Floyd Boucard. That's a grown-ass man.
Yeah, for sure. Elijah Hughes, guys just really getting at it, but maybe weren't either ready or, injured. Again, watching and enjoying Gavin Meyer just that guy, talk about Trojan. That guy dripped Trojan. He's played with a club on his hand, a bit undersized, and having to play against, a gassed Kobe Pepe, right? Sometimes because they went into the spring needing a zero technique, a couple guys, right? Because they lost Bear Alexander left midway through the season, and really they weren't getting any help from the inside. They went into that season needing some help, at the zero technique, right over the ball. And what happens is they end up having Dejan Lafitte, who, was a younger guy, but there had some size to him, hoping he could, fill, at least at the very least, spell some guys, in the rotation to help out. And then Isaiah Rakes, the fraudulent transfer, obviously, to get right back to the go around, skirt that SEC rule about transferring from one SEC school to another one by, via the Trojan pipeline. Now USC was thin, and you just saw it. It kind of fell apart from that position. I'm hoping, like we talked about earlier, and I don't want to put that juju out in the world, but I'm hoping that our guard situation isn't that. And I think for all the reasons we listed with those guys, we should be okay. But we were not okay at defensive tackle last year. It was a major part of why USC fell apart. I mean, it's so obvious, Gabe, because people knew, and anybody that definitely followed it, losing Bear Alexander halfway through the season, losing Isaiah Rakes and Dejan Lafitte in the spring, knowing we were already short at that position. As you said, those guys were great Trojans. They play under man. They played way above their ability, fought like Trojans. It really, that defense, as great as it was kind of doomed from the start. We saw it starting late in the year and late in games, because without that depth, I think football is a game of attrition.
But still, just look at what we did last year. I'm not saying we were the 85 Bears by any means or the 08 Trojans, but we were competent. That's a lot more than we could say for the last previous years under Alex Grinch. So looking at what Dan Lynn has at his disposal now, what Eric Henderson has, what Sean Nua has, I mean, we're going through the names, whether you're talking about defensive end, edge, nose tackle, defensive tackle, we're 3 deep at every single spot. I mean, and that's not even counting on guys like Braylon Shelby to turn into an elite player, which he absolutely could. And that's not even counting a guy like Jakeem Stewart, who anything he gives you is extra. Yes, he's a very hyped player, but guys, he is a true freshman that did not even play his junior year in high school. It's probably going to take some time, but what if he's ready to go?
If you have one of those guys like Stewart or Bucard or Gus Cordova, that takes that quantum leap. Remember, everyone was all about Marlon Tuipulotu. And when you thought Tuipulotu was kind of like this kind of kid coming in, with talented, but coming in, the brother. And he turns out to have the season he did, basically saving what the semblance of the defense and helping USC to get through that initial Riley year.
Yes.
If you have that guy that's special, if you have someone or maybe one of the veterans, this is Anthony Lucas's year to take off and do special. Maybe this is Cam Fountain's breakout year. We have a theme here at a number of these positions we're talking about, whether it be guard, the corners, or on the defensive line. We got undeniable talent, but we haven't seen anything yet. And again, as Trojan fans, we get all excited. We see all these happy, shiny new toys. We're really excited, and we are. There's a good reason to be excited about the development that's going to come from, a Coach Henney or a Sean Nua, the Teron Reed. We know these guys can coach their guys up. There should be excitement there, but we got to see it on the field. I feel it time and time again. We get over our skis. We look at what the potential of this team could be and not what they do on the field. And so I'm very cautiously optimistic, in year 2 with Danton Lynn. Last year, they're installing the defense. I think there's enough veteran presence on this team to help the guys get them, and veterans coming in that know ball, that will get up to speed really quickly. They're going to start adding some bells and whistles to this defense. And I don't think the Big Ten knows going to hit them.
I think we just won the national championship.
All right, so going off of that, what do you think that the upside is for this defense? Let's just pick a stat like scoring defense. I think we gave up 24 points a game last year. Like, where do you think we can realistically get to?
I was really excited because last year I called 22 points a game.
I remember that.
And I was looking really good until the very end of the season. And I think that we have improved the number of seasons, but more than anything else, that pass rush it has to help. The depth on the interior defensive line has to help. Having a second year, as I just talked about in Danton Lynn's system, has to help. And with the attention to detail, with the team getting bigger, possibly more athletic, I do see the look that number could get better. I do have some concerns. We play the Ducks at Autzen this year, and we know that they can put up some points. I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that they might be able to shave it down, because also remember we're ramping up our off season. We're not starting off with LSU. We're not going up against Garrett Nussmeier in game 1. I think that USC might be able to pad its stats early on, just like the SEC does every year, just like a lot of these Big Ten schools do. So I'm optimistic. I think we can. Dare I say under 20 points? I'm
That's
tempted.
Bold.
I'm tempted, but I'm not going to. I'm gonna stay with my 22 points per game. I think we're going to improve slightly, only because I think that overall, I'm not. You know what? Though, I'm talking myself out of that, because I'm thinking in my head, I'm seeing these scrubs that they're going to throw out at quarterbacks at us.
Yes, and
I think that we're stout enough inside that they are not going to be able to run. Big Jaws going to be sitting there waiting. Keyshawn Silver, Devin Tompkins. These guys, dude, talk about big guys. Jide Abasiri. I don't think that they're good, right? Running at them, straight at them. We have talked about Timmer Robinson. Put Timmer Robinson at 6'3", 230, 231. up there in the middle. Yeah, I don't know. God, that's hard. That's hard. Threw me a curveball here. I'm going crazy.
Well,
I'm going to say it. We're going to be below 20 points.
Okay, that's bold. I'll give you that.
Well, because I don't see it going up.
No, I don't either.
With the defense we put on the field, and again, that is not to disparage any of those Trojans. I loved watching that defense last year. The fact that they were so undermanned in the middle, so banged up towards the end of the season, played some amazing offenses, and they were able to do that. I am talk me out of it, but I mean, right now I can't see this team not improving. So that being said, I'm saying that they're sub 20. I know where you're gonna go. I know where you're going with this one.
So I'm not going to talk you out of it because I enjoy seeing you happy, but I am going to say that we're not going to be under 20 points a game. For reference, that would have put us at 18th last year. Michigan was at 17. They allowed 19.9 points a game. So I'm going to say that we do improve, but only to 22 points a game. I'll take your pick from last year.
We can just say it because USC sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess we can say that.
I just remember they're going to have some padded games early on. I'm worried about obviously going to Autzen, going to South Bend, but we're going to be facing again in Autzen. We're going to have more at quarterback who didn't overly impress, and that the receiving core has been knocked down a peg for the Ducks. As far as the other teams we're playing, you got a true freshman at Michigan coming in to the Coliseum to play us. So I know maybe I am just kind of shining a little too much on this one. I'm sure I'm going to get crucified in the comments, but I just really believe in Danton Lynn. But Danton Lynn has showed at UCLA, if you give him that true zero tech guy that can be stout up front, and that point of attack be taken care of like Jay Toia did for him at UCLA. And we've now have a guy like either Keyshawn Silver, Kobe Pepe, or Jamal Jarrett, Carlin Jones, big dudes that are going to be ready to play up in the middle. I think that this defense is going to feed and key off of that. I think the new pass rush, it can only get better. I like the although unproven, either whether it be that it's not being on the field or moving up a level to the Big Ten, there are players that or players that have been inconsistent in the past. There are some question marks as far as our corners are. I think our safeties are strong as heck, and I do have a lot of faith in the talent and among all those people we talked about that they're gonna have three guys that can come together and get stops when we need it. So all that being said, I think that this team can improve by a little over 4 points a game. I really do think that can happen.
Well, and a crazy stat now with the caveat that in 2023, we played the likes of Michael Penix and Bo Nix and Sam Hartman. That defense allowed 34.4 points a game. So going from 34 points a game in 2023 to 24, I know the offenses we played are different. I know that the Big Ten is a very offensively challenged conference, but still a 10-point jump is something that really catches your eye.
When I said that, I mean, I remember at my previous stop, I made it very clear that I expected USC's defense, regardless. I mean, I was a believer in what Danton Lynn did at UCLA, and I knew it would translate to USC. But I said just simply because of the offenses moving from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten, we would see a statistical difference. Now, with that, and I also said that I'm not sure if that's going to lead to wins, but I do think it's going to slow the game down. We're going to have less possessions. And I think that our defensive stats are going to drop simply because of that. And like you brought up, the quarterback play in the Big Ten is not what USC is used to being in the Pac-12.
No, not even close. And it's even more suspect when you look at our schedule this year, when you have the likes of Purdue, Aiden Childs at Michigan State, Luke Altmaier at Illinois is a really damn good player. Bryce Underwood's a wild card. I'm not a believer in Dylan Raiola at all. Not even close. Preston Stone, the SMU transfers at Northwestern. Mark Gronowski's at Iowa, the South Dakota State kid that was actually linked to USC. And then you have Dante Moore at Oregon. And then to finish the year with Nico at UCLA, that's not necessarily a murderer's row of quarterbacks. Honestly, the best one we play is going to be Luke Altmaier.
And as USC rolls into South Bend, a difficult place to play, obviously, not winning there since 2011. I don't think that CJ Carr, although he is a very talented guy, it follows a theme that we'll be hearing a lot in this podcast. Talented on paper, but unproven. So I just cannot see a situation where this defense gets lit up by anybody. I think USC is going to be in some dogfights because I do think we may struggle on offense side of the ball. But that's why it's so important this defense does come together like we think it can do. The corners have to figure it out. We need of those guys, Gabe, for me to be right on that number. We're going to need one of these guys to really emerge, and I know that you're super high on the fact
Johnson, baby.
That guy, Chasen Johnson, is probably going to be that guy. And if he is, if we have, a situation where you have a Mekhi Blackman holding down one side of the field, like we saw in 2023, then that can make this defense really nasty. Okay, so let's wrap this up with a little bit of fun. I mean, we could talk all day about this situation, the roster, the position battles, how bad the passing is in the Big Ten. But what really is going to come down to is 2 road trips this year. And I kind of teased it with the fact I dropped a nice little fact about USC not winning in South Bend since 2011. Well, unfortunately, USC has not won in Autzen since 2011. Now we play Notre Dame every year, except for the COVID year. So there's a lot more games. We've missed the Ducks overtime, but we have not beaten either one of these teams since 2011 on the road. And I think for this team to get to where they want to go, which is the playoffs, being able to steal one of these games on the road, which people are not going to give USC a lot of, I'm sure there'll be fairly decent underdogs in both games. USC is going to have to go in there and steal one game. And so if I had to ask you, you could only pick one. You could only pick one. Which one of these games do you want the most? Is it going to be Notre Dame?
Notre Dame.
And I think I know why.
Yeah, because I was living in Columbus, Ohio for the last, 6 or 7 years. So I was at the game in South Bend in 2017 when Sam Darnold dropped the first snap of the game. I was there in 2021 when that team had just kind of quit and Keaton Slovis was just getting destroyed. And the one time I got to see Caleb Williams in person in college was in South Bend for the worst game of his career. And it was miserable. It was cold. It was drizzling. I got served raw chicken. I hate South Bend. I never want to go back. I want to beat them more than anybody on the schedule.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the fact that because the Irish are our rivals, are the rival for us. Maybe the players might be UCLA, but definitely for alumni, for fans, it is Notre Dame. And
I'm way more concerned with my personal experiences, Tim.
Well, fair enough. But this may be the last time for a long time that that USC goes to South Bend, and I just don't know the taste that'll leave in everyone's mouth if we go into South Bend and don't get it done. It is be painful. I mean, and let's face it can't be the Ducks because the Ducks aren't our rival. They will never be our rival. Matter of fact, even if we don't play the Irish for let's say, 10 years, it's going to be another Big Ten team. I mean, I would say Michigan, or I'd even say Ohio State, because Ohio State and USC, they have history. And yes, I get it. The big, you have the game with the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Wolverines. That's the game. That's their main rival, which I totally understand. But if you see just the hatred in the eyes of Ohio State fans when they bring up USC, because they'll tell you they beat USC in 2017. But in my lifetime, and I am not a young man, USC was on a 7-game win streak against Ohio State, costing them some pretty special seasons. And USC was able to, kick their ass in the Rose Bowl more than once on the way to our national championships. So I really would like to see USC win in South Bend, because the Irish, let's face it, the Irish have had the upper hand for years, now. And that's mainly because of USC being inept. Caleb had that first year when he got here, but like you said, that game in South Bend was just brutal. That offensive line was just getting thrown around. I'd love to see SC go into South Bend and just lay a woodshed on them and shock the world. Really, honestly, that would be a statement game. Everyone's been talking about USC, what they can be, and they're not even in the top, which I think is odd. They're not even in the top 25 of the coaches poll. And you have the Big Ten media talking about USC in the same phrases as Iowa and Indiana and Illinois. It just completely absurd. USC goes into whatever happens at Autzen, but USC goes into South Bend and puts their stamp. This defense puts their stamp on the Irish. This offense plays USC, old school USC, run the ball down your throat. I think that's going to wake a lot of people up, and this might be that game that you look back on. That was a turning point in Lincoln Riley's stint here at USC.
That is the thing, though, because when you look at Notre Dame, I mean, we all make fun of them. They haven't won a title since '88. I was born in 1998, so I've never seen them win one. But personally, I respect them. I really do. As a university, as a fan base, I have zero respect for Oregon. That's why it's Notre Dame at the end of the day. It's that mutual respect. Oregon is kind of irrelevant throughout the history of college football. You could tell the story of college football without Oregon in it. You can't say that about Michigan or Notre Dame or obviously USC. That's what the difference is.
Yeah, I really don't think there's anything else we can say about that. Ducks, again, completely right. I love the way you said that so eloquently. You can write history without the Ducks. And really, if you are going to talk about college football, the Irish, the pageantry of USC versus the Irish, which we're all crossing our fingers, they figure out a way to make this thing happen. It's not looking great, you guys, but this is something so special that it's going to face a hellstorm if they do try to end it. But I do get both sides. I lean towards let's keep this thing going, but there's a lot of merit to, you can't hold back the tide. And the way this is going is all about the playoffs. And if you don't have equal scheduling, if you have some conferences still staying and put at 8 conference games, playing warm-up games, late into the season, there's nothing to be gained. I hate to say it, the rivalry is amazing. And if it ends, part of my childhood goes away. But at the end of the day, USC doesn't get that big boost, in the rankings that you would need late November, going into the Rose Bowl in order to claim a national championship under the older models or get into a BCS game. 12-game models, 16-game models are going to favor easier schedules, padding it just like other conferences have done for years. And so this next game is just going to be that much more special. So, the Ducks, afterthought, the Irish, something special. And we will talk about this, the absurd mental gymnastics you have to do in order to put some of the teams that they have ahead of USC. Is USC going into the season with a surefire thing to win 9 games and be like a solid top 20 team? We don't know yet. There's too many moving pieces, Gabe. But we are going to get into it. Just some of these teams that these voters have put ahead of USC. I get it that USC they think may not be a top 25 team. I can even stomach that. USC hasn't proven it, and they've fallen flat on their face 2 years in a row. But you cannot put some of the teams that I'm seeing in the top 20 and leave USC off. I know USC was a team receiving one of the other teams receiving votes, but it's kind of embarrassing to whoever compiled this thing.
But having said all that, that is going to do it for episode number 1 of the USC Football Podcast. I mean, we talked about it in the intro, but me and Tim have wanted to do this for so long. It's only going to get better, so make sure you stick around. Please leave a 5-star review. Like Tim said, we are going to read every single one live on the show. So whatever streaming platform you're on, please do leave a 5-star review for us. So yeah, make sure you're subscribing to the USC Football Podcast YouTube page, as well as making sure you check out my YouTube channel, The Trojan Blade. I cover all things USC football, breaking news, recruiting, film breakdowns, all of it. So at The Trojan Blade on YouTube, also at The Trojan Blade on Instagram and Twitter.
And as always, you can find me over at LAFB, where we're putting out daily content about USC football through fall camp and into the season. I'm currently putting together a couple of photo galleries that I have curated over the course of the practices in the fall. And I'm hoping you guys will make us your first read every day.
All right, guys, fight on. We'll see you next week.